All right, we are live from Occupy City Hall in Rockford, Illinois. I believe this is episode 3 of the Live from Occupy City Hall podcast. It's been a crazy few weeks here, so we've been behind on doing these podcasts, but I promise this is something that we will make a regular thing. We sit here today on July 1st, 2021, entering another month in which the occupation at City Hall has continued. I would like to remind people that we enter another month of this occupation continuing because the issues that brought us out here continue to permeate the society and the community. The institutions that perpetuate those issues continue to be unempathetic towards the issues and towards the community that is affected by these issues, and so that is why we must remain vigilant in the occupation of City Hall. We sit here on July 1st, 2021, awaiting the findings for the Winnebago Boone Integrity Task Force investigation into the shooting of Jose Gonzalez Jr., a 19-year-old, and then into the murder of Faustin Guaitigo, who was killed by the Winnebago County Sheriff deputies, namely Winnebago County Sheriff Deputy Joseph Brulard on April 10th, 2021, and Jose Gonzalez Jr., who was shot on April 11th, 2021. And so we await those findings to come out. Based on everything that has happened in the past, those findings are sure to be justified. Those officers are sure to return to work. So as we wait for those things to happen, we must try to raise awareness in the city and in the community about these things and make sure that more and more people know the names of Jose Gonzalez Jr. and the names of Faustin Guaitigo. With that being said, my name is Leslie Roth. I'm here with Kay. We're going to do a live from Occupy City Hall podcast, and we're going to speak about some of the recent events that have taken place in the city of Rockford, Illinois, and in the county of Winnebago, and how those things that have taken place relate to the struggle to end police terrorism, mass incarceration, and racial injustice in this city and in this county, and then in this region and in this nation. Again, as we begin this podcast, one of the things that I want to point out highly is that we sit here and we await the findings from this Winnebago Boone Integrity Task Force to come out. And I believe that that is the issue that must be at the forefront of the consciousness of the community. Again, this community is steep with and deep with this racism and this bigotry, and it is the reason in which these macroaggressions of violence continue to happen in our community. It is racism that is the reason that Jose Gonzalez Jr. was shot down in the streets by Rockford Police Department officer Owen McGinnis. Institutional racism, which was created by individual racism, which is the reasons for those things. The same thing is to be said for Faustin Guaitigo being murdered. It is racism that is the reason that Faustin Guaitigo was murdered in the streets. And until we address those root causes of racism, we will continue to have this cycle playing in front of our eyes in Winnebago County. And so what I'll do is I'll move the mic over and I'll let Kay do some speaking and let Kay introduce himself, and then I'll bring up our first topic away from just the occupation and Jose Gonzalez Jr. and Faustin Guaitigo. I think you might have to hit the on. You might have to hit the on switch.
Good evening. I'm Kay. I've been with the occupation since the beginning. More of a tactical asset as far as on the ground.
You know, for the podcast, we might have to just move the mic over. Okay, it might be better for the podcast.
So use this one?
Yeah.
So basically, in a tactical capacity was how I initially came, and that expanded to more of a speaking atmosphere as well, given the need for both. So we're awaiting these findings in Rockford, Illinois. Those of you that are listening in other areas of the country, to give you a track record, this This Winnebago Boone County Task Force has been in existence for approximately 10 years. And every single case. God bless you.
God bless you.
God bless you.
Tell everybody that Steve
God bless you. God bless you. We will.
anybody that goes against me
We will. We will.
Thank you.
We will.
have $3.99.
We will. We will. We're gonna hop back onto this. All right.
Thank
We're
you.
gonna hop back on this.
Uh,
All right. You be safe. Be
Thank
safe
you.
out there. Thank you. Thank you. Be safe.
we just had a guest come by who wanted to show his support for the movement. And we do appreciate it. For those of you that are not in Rockford, just to understand the depth of what we're dealing with, the cases go before a board. It's a Winnebago Boone County Task Force board of officers, the Parks District, the Rockford Police Department, and the Sheriff's Department. In the entire track record history of this entity, they have never found any officer guilty of any wrongdoing. Literally, when they come to the findings, they use the phrase multiple times, justified. And we're talking about deaths, people being not just shot at, but their lives being extinguished at the hands of officers, and their findings to date, every single one of them has been, in their words, justified. Obviously, on a social level and just on a moral level, it's not possible. We have the whole world looking at America saying, the way your police treat the black community specifically, these are crimes against humanity. So that people don't take that phrase lightly, that's why that's why there was a World War I and a World War II. We were dealing with crimes against humanity. And for other nations to look at America and say the same thing about America, it's not that it just happened. It's at such a visible level globally that you have unbiased eyes all over the world saying these are crimes against humanity. Then I'll just pass the mic back to Leslie.
And so here we sit here on Thursday evening, getting ready to go into another City Market Friday. We get ready to go into a holiday weekend. For some, it's not a holiday for me. I don't celebrate the 4th of July. I won't be wearing any red, white, and blue. I won't be purchasing any new outfits. I won't be setting off any firecrackers. I don't think that there is anything to be celebrated about what it is that this country considers to be its Independence Day or its Constitution or the men that are being celebrated on that day. But nonetheless, buildings and government offices will be closed on Monday. People will have a 3-day weekend. There will be a parade coming down the streets of Rockford, Illinois on Sunday. There will be fireworks being let off by the city throughout the evening on Sunday and Sunday night. There will be food trucks set up in different areas of downtown. And so people will come out and drink and be merry and celebrate white nationalism and celebrate quote unquote white supremacy. And so that is what the forecast has laid out for us in these coming up days here. We have City Market on Friday, then it'll be Saturday before the 4th of July, and then Sunday will be the 4th of July. We got a few bikes coming through here, a few motorcycles, a few people coming through. So that is what the weekend is set up to be like. And again, I find it highly hypocritical that it is the same entities, the same city that was funding the Juneteenth event, the same city that was the sponsor for the Juneteenth event for celebrating black liberation, is now going to celebrate black oppression. And that is what was going on when this Constitution was written. They're going to celebrate white nationalism. They're going to celebrate a lot of cop cars coming down the streets. But a lot of cop cars coming down the street. Very interesting. They're going to celebrate. That's what they're going to celebrate. And so I think it's hypocritical. I think again, a lot of the same black entities that are part of City Market were then part of Juneteenth. They're going to be part of this 4th of July event going on. We got this cannabis money that Kay's been speaking about on a regular basis. I'm sure we'll see some of those same black faces being distributed some of that $400,000 of cannabis money because these black entities are in the pockets of this white power structure and are being used to push the agendas of this white power structure. And that is what the 4th of July is. The 4th of July is an agenda of the white power structure to continue to psychologically have people bought in to white nationalism and to white supremacy. And so that is what is coming up here this weekend. Some of the things that have happened since we had one of these podcasts is there's been multiple arrests taking place on Fridays now. Even before City Market begins, the racist, corrupt, crooked state's attorney Jay Hanley has begun to just issue arrest warrants for all types of rudimentary actions in an effort to not only just criminalize and stigmatize the protests, but also in an effort to try to add as many charges to people as possible in hopes that people take a plea so he can keep his high conviction rate, because he understands that the majority of these charges are BS. And so we sit here on this Thursday evening not knowing if on Friday afternoon or Friday evening we will find out that it is members of the organization who have warrants out for them, or if there are community members who have partaken in the protests who have warrants out for them because of the dirty game that Jay Hanley and his administration is playing. And so that is what the forecast is like for us here in these next coming days. I currently have a no contact order, so I won't be at City Market, but Kay will be at City. And here, I'll pass it over to Kay. Here, I'll lift this up.
I will be present. I will be present at City Market for its entirety to observe and also protest the goings on in this city. I think a lot of people in Rockford, they feel torn to either get involved or completely stay away, not realizing that I think for the large part of this, as far as the scope of this, a lot of people don't understand that the stand that we're taking now improves the quality of life in the future. So instead of settling for where we are now as a city, the moves that we're making on a daily basis are to set this city up for a better tomorrow. That when people say, well, what's the end goal? Well, we're not here to disrupt to the sense of cause utter chaos. We are fighting for better. We are demanding better, and we are demanding that those who are sworn to an oath as public servants, literally public servants that have weapons, that they do their job accordingly. But when you look at the system itself, because of the easiest way I can say it is if I had a glass of water and I put one drop of poison in it, it said, when you drink this, nobody in their right mind would drink it. Even if I showed you the poison bottle and said, well, this is 100% poison. This is a glass of water. They're both clear and odorless. This will kill you. And I take a dropper and I put one drop in the water and say, once you sip this, it's going to hurt you, but I can't guarantee if you're going to live or die. This is what the racism in this town is doing, where people are looking at it and observing, well, in certain instances, well, it's not a whole lot. none of it should be acceptable at any time. There's no way in the world as a black man in America I need to rationalize, well, they only shot and killed 5. So that's a good day? Am I supposed to be happy? Am I supposed to be happy knowing that whites are 50% of the country, blacks are 13%, but we outnumber whites in prison because of the conviction rate? Not standing before the judge, because of the conviction rate. Whites go before the judge in higher numbers. The conviction rate is lower. So I don't believe in splitting hairs about black on black crime. 90% of all crime is committed by people of the same race and ethnicity. So that's pointless. That's a pointless argument. Right now in Rockford, we are at war with a system, and a lot of people feel nervous when you start using terms like war or fight. But when someone is not giving you something that you've requested, you have to spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically be prepared to take what you initially asked for. You have to be willing to take what you initially asked for. I'm going to say it one more time. When you've been cordial and patient and kind and loving, and you've asked out of respect for something that you duly deserve, wholeheartedly deserve, and it is not given to you, your only recourse is to prepare yourself to take it by force. Rockford is not attempting to treat black men and black people in general as equals, even as citizens. Rockford is fully prepared to treat black men in this city as the black community as a police state. They're fully prepared to continue these Gestapo tactics, knowing that that's not a community. That's not how you treat a community. That's not how you uplift a community. That's not how you grow a community. Well, how do you know, Kay? Because the police force received an extra $3 million at the end of last year. Well, how do you know, Kay? At the beginning of this year, the Justice Center received even more money. Well, how do you know, Kay? How much money did they spend in the urban areas of Rockford last year and this year? I'll wait. I'll answer the question. None. So my question to the leadership in Rockford, as you see them doling out money to the Justice Center, doling out money to the police force, why are you clapping and applauding the token crumbs that are given to you, which are baseless and meaningless? Because those crumbs are being swallowed up by the dismantling of the black community on a daily basis. There is a deliberate attempt to stifle and control the lack of growth in the urban community in Rockford. There is a deliberate attempt. This is not a coincidence. There is a deliberate attempt. Anyone that goes to city council meetings, and I urge you, go. You will see fundamentally when they start breaking down the money, none of it is being spent. None of it is being spent in the black community.
And again, we want to make sure that we're reminding people to share all of these, share all of the content, share these videos, share this podcast that you're listening to now. We part of raising the awareness is making sure as many people as possible can hear about these things and know about these things. And so just along the same lines that Kay was speaking, all of these issues are economic issues, are social issues. They have multiple layers and multiple implications for things. One of the things that has happened recently today that we had going on at the occupation was there's been a white vigilante who has been desecrating the memorial of Shannon Graves. So we weren't sure who it was who had been doing it. So we put it up, and we had a May 30th Alliance stakeout. And in the midst of the stakeout, it was learned that it was two racist white men who live in the old City Hall building who were responsible for the continued desecration of Shannon Graves' memorial. One of the things that one of the white men, these racist white men, said, I believe is it was very interesting. He said, it's been 10 years. Why do you have a memorial up for somebody who was killed 10 years ago? And again, we live in a society, we live in a community in which these issues have never been truly addressed. These issues have never been absolved. And so that's why even when some of these murders have taken place 5 years and 10 years and 20 years ago, we have to remain vigilant, struggling for them and trying to raise awareness for them as if they happened yesterday, because of the lack of justice that has been given to these same type of issues that have happened after it, that happened before it, and that we know the same lack of attention that will be given to the ones that come in the future. And then along with that, one of the things that made me think of is as the video was being filmed of this racist white man destroying and desecrating the memorial of Shannon Graves, only a week after Shannon Graves, the anniversary of when Shannon Graves was murdered. I just thought to myself about how much action that it's going to take. These white men were taking action. Just by all they did, they just lived in the old City Hall, and they was going to take a political action, and they wasn't going to have no picture of no black men being at this light pole near where they were living at. And that is the type of action vigilance that we need for justice and for black people and for this community, for the black community here in Rockford. And so that was one of the things that that has been on my mind about the last 24 hours that's going on here, and Kay has something that he'd like to add here.
I'd just like to add to this point.
You can sit if you don't got to lean into it.
Okay, I'd just like to add to this point. I think context is important in Rockford. The black community in Rockford needs to stop hoping, wishing, and praying that the white community is going to generate enough compassion to remember your black slain. That's not how this works. That's not how this works. White America is not saying, remember we hope that you remember our slain. They go ahead and remember their slain and then look at you and say, aren't you going to participate? They don't expect us to lead the charge to remember their fallen and their dead. Veterans Day, they don't say, black community, I hope you come out and I hope that you acknowledge these dead veterans. America does it for its own. And if you follow suit, the more the merrier. If you don't, you ostracize. Remember 9/11. Remember Vietnam. Remember World War I. Remember World War II. What about slavery? Oh, that was so long ago. That was so long ago. Why you guys got to bring that up? You see how America has a disassociation when it comes to the plight of black people. Oh, that's so long ago. But remember 9/11. Now, am I saying don't remember 9/11? People died on that day. But what I'm saying is, why remember 9/11 and then try to forget slavery? Well, it's okay. Aren't they removing critical theory from schools? Basically, aren't they removing the history of slavery from the American education system? Isn't that what's happening right now? But yet, I go to Germany and I can't fly a swastika Nazi flag. You will be put in jail immediately. You will be arrested. Why? Because they're trying to get past their past. They acknowledged the atrocities. They paid reparations. You cannot openly display a swastika in Germany. In the irony of life of white supremacy in America, people proudly run around with the Confederate flag, the swastika, American flag, and focus on white supremacy. They run around with a badge of honor. America's phenomenon when it comes to race, and even Rockford, people identify with whiteness more than they identify with being European. I'm going to say that again. People identify more with their whiteness than they do with being European. They don't embrace their ethnicity. I'm Italian. I'm Polish. I'm from the Ukraine. I'm Russian. They don't. Americans don't walk around with that. With the pride of ethnicity. This is an American phenomenon. They walk around proudly displaying their whiteness. Whiteness is not an ethnicity. Whiteness is not a race. Whiteness is not a culture. Whiteness is not a class. Whiteness is an ideology. Whiteness was invented when white supremacy was invented. Whiteness is not a race. But the disconnect of the white community in Rockford is, well, that's your problem. That's your people. That's you. That's what you have to deal with. And that's why there's always been a schism in Rockford and a social separation. So what I'm saying to the black community is, you rally around your own slain. You rally around your own fallen. You show the city your anger, your lack of trust and faith in the leadership to stand for you and to take on your heartfelt pain and your tears. I've seen the family members myself personally with tears in their eyes thanking us for remembering their slain. Do I take that lightly? No, I don't take anything involved in this movement lightly. And to see a sister, a cousin, a best friend, a son, a mom say thank you because I didn't get justice from the city, it speaks volumes. The city deemed through its investigation, well, Winnebago Boone County, that everything was justified and there was justice given to these murdered people. But that's how backwards, and that's how perverse, and that's how sick, and that's how demonic, that's how devilish this is. Where right is wrong and wrong is right. When you have family members saying, thank you for bringing justice to my family members, and you have protesters being vilified and demonized by a city, but yet you have the officers that slay them, that get raises, paid leave, parades, a pat on the back, another day, just another day at work. It's sick. It's absolutely sickening. No, I don't. No, I will not be partaking in any 4th of July event. It's such a hypocritical day. It's literally two white classes fighting over a whole other people's nation. It doesn't. Ultimately, in history, it didn't matter who won because they were the same people. They were the same people. You had a group that broke away from Europe, that came to America to help establish America, and then when they were establishing America for Europe, they said, we like it so much we want to keep it. Then they fought with the British. Is the quality of life for the indigenous people in America any different if Britain would have won? No, they still would have slaughtered them. Was it any different for the Americans, the traitors to England? Look at the outcome. They still slaughtered them. It didn't matter. Because the outcome was the same. We are going to take it, and we're going to take it by force. So no, I don't find any happiness in the 4th of July because of the hypocrisy of it. One nation under God. When have we ever been one nation? Ever in the history of this nation, America has never been one nation because that was the decision made by this nation, not by non-whites. That was a decision made by this nation. From day one, blacks and people of color have been trying to kumbaya, pray, hug, hope, and stand with white America. And white America has shown us time and time again that is not the protocol of this nation. That is not the function. That is not the heartfelt compassion of this country. America has the capacity to love every non-white people. But as a nation, you see it time and time again. As a nation, it doesn't care. Well, how so, Kay? Why are indigenous women going missing on reservations every day? Why does Flint still not have drinkable water 3 years later? Why do we have a Winnebago Boone County task force and that no officer has ever been convicted of a murder? Ever? Why do we have a justice center smack dab in the middle of Rockford, Illinois, where City Hall should be? I'm not trying to prove racism. I'm just pointing it out. I'm not trying to prove it. I'm just pointing it out. It's perverse. It's twisted. It's backwards. We live in a perverse, twisted, backwards city, in a perverse, twisted, backwards nation. And I know it triggers some people. Well, if you don't like it, then leave. No. If I don't like it, then change it. How about that? How about if I don't like it, change it? My heritage, my lineage has shed blood on this nation too, on this soil. I can speak proudly to say what I don't like about America, the fraud that is America, the hypocrisy that is America. But I'm so angry about it that I will stand and fight to see it change. I don't need to go anywhere. I will stand my ground and help to fight and be an advocate for a change and stand for justice in a perverse, twisted city. I've stood for justice from day one. I'm not out here fighting for corruption, fighting pro-corruption, pro-murder. I stand against all that. I proudly say, without guilt or hesitation, that my stance is a stance for standing up for what is right and what is just. I have no personal agenda. I'm not looking for someone to grease my palm. I'm not looking for a backroom deal. Illinois, I'm going to say this point. I'm going to hand the mic back to Leslie. Illinois, statistically, is the most politically corrupt state in the union. Out of all 50 states, Illinois is the number one most politically corrupt state in America. So anyone in Rockford that would think, not my city, really? Really? You honestly think Rockford has not tasted corruption or does not have corruption in it? Illinois is the most politically corrupt state in America. Corruption has many different faces. We have some of the highest taxes that you can believe for state taxes, but we have some of the worst roads in America. How do you think that happened? The money's not getting spent on the roads. We have a justice center downtown, bigger than the last one. Do I honestly think that Rockford couldn't have easily remedied its situation of a vibrant black community by adding more infrastructure dollars and building up that side of the city? It could have easily done that. But through systemic racism and the perpetuity of it. See, the people that are running Rockford now can't be blamed for starting what took place, but they are guilty as charged for perpetuating it and not attempting to stop it. You are either for something or you're against it. So everyone that in this city that is focused on pumping more money into the Justice Center, more money into the incarceration, more money into the police, please explain to me how that's going to enhance or develop the infrastructure of the black community, because that's not where the dollars went. $3 million could have easily went to the black community, but it went to the Justice Center. The $400,000 for the cannabis tax fund is a good start, but we're looking at 3 to 4 decades of a deliberate attempt to dismantle the communal structure of the black community and the black family in America. So when I look at Rockford, how do I feel personally about $400,000? It's a start. It's a very small start, given the weight that you're looking at 40 years specific to the war on drugs. But then prior to that, you had redlining, Jim Crow, and slavery. So the black community, not just in Rockford, but the black community has never had a break, has never had a true breather. Well, what about Black Wall Street? What about Black Wall Street? Black Wall Street was black people banding together, growing their own community, and then the surrounding racist white communities said, I don't like what they've done. I don't like what they've done, so we're going to burn it down. And it happened multiple times in America. So it wasn't about them being vibrant. It was about the systemic racism of, I can't even be happy to leave them alone. My hope is for the black community in Rockford that you realize the city has completely played you. Completely played you. To the clergy, the city has completely played you. To the black politicians, the city has completely played you. To every citizen of Rockford, black citizen, the city has played you. Listen to what I'm telling you. If you go to any of the council meetings, you will hear repeatedly money being spent in every area imaginable. Money being spent in every area imaginable except where you live. Except where you live, to any major degree. Why? Because you have to keep that area decimated so that you can keep that community flowing through the Justice Center. It's that simple. If I'm wrong, correct me. If I'm wrong, whoever's listening, under the sound of my voice, post it. Post it and show me some documentation to show me that I'm wrong. I know what I'm talking about. I know I'm not wrong. I go to the council meetings. I'm very active with the city. I'm watching with my own two eyes how the city works. We have to keep the black community decimated economically, socially, so that we can keep them flowing through the Justice Center. We as a people have been monetized to be the backbone of the economic base of the Justice Center and the police force of Rockford. That's how twisted this is. That's why the police don't want to end qualified immunity in this county, because it removes the means of them showing force and then using an opinion to justify murder. Whether people realize it or not, in their handbook, it is up to the officer's discretion to use deadly force. That's how vague that is. You could put your hand in your pocket to get your license and be shot in the face because the officer thought, when he asked you to get your license, he thought you were going to pull out a gun. That's all they need. That's why there are no conviction rates in Winnebago County. That's why it doesn't mean that the officers were right. It's because of the language of the law is so gray that it's just a matter of the officer weaving his story tightly enough to justify the murder of another human being that he's not held accountable. But this is how twisted this is. Right is wrong and wrong is right. Let a citizen shoot somebody because they thought that person had a gun. He's going to fight for his life to stay out of prison. He's going to fight for his life. Oh, the judge is going to say, we need to make him an example. We have to prosecute him the fullest extent of the law. Not when it comes to officers, though. Just another day at work. Listen.
Yeah, and again, one of the things that we want to continue to make sure that we're doing is just continuing to have these deep dives into these subjects and to touch on all the different broad aspects of these all the different broad aspects of these implications and what those things mean for us as a community. And again, we have to make sure that we're remembering the people and the families that these things are happening to and against, because those are the people who are at the forefront of this movement, the people who have been touched by these things. And so we want to say rest in power to all victims of police terrorism, mass incarceration, and racial injustice. And now, I do not remember the original memorials going up, but we'll have to look to see what year it is. But I do remember, and again, one of the things that has happened is that there are so many different things at play. We're still waiting for trials to come forward. People are still going to court on a regular basis, still seeing a judge on a regular basis. These arrest warrants are still coming out on a regular basis. And so there's a heavy amount to deal with as we're still even trying to get even true monicums of justice for things that happened over a year ago. One of the things that I'm sure Kay wants to speak about some of the things, some of his endeavors that he's had along that line. So I'll give you 1 second. Pass it over.
Thank you. Thank you. What Leslie is speaking on is in regards to what Leslie is speaking to is in regards to the children that were pepper sprayed last year. There were 3 to 4 children that were pepper sprayed by the sheriff's department in Rockford at the city market in the protest zone. I'm going to say that again. There were 3 to 4 children that were pepper sprayed in the protest zone, the designated zone by law following the ACLU guidelines in that area. So anyone that may say, well, they shouldn't have been, listen, it was a designated area that had been spoken of repeatedly by all parties. The Parks Department, the Sheriff's Department, and RPD said, this is your official designated area following the ACLU guidelines. This is where you are designated to freely protest because it's your First Amendment right. So before anyone wants to make a big to-do about someone else's First Amendment right, we're not going to do the hypotheticals of why they were there. They were there because they wanted to be there and they had every right to be there to exercise their First Amendment right. So when you're asking why was a teenager there, or why was a 9-year-old there, or why were these children there? Because their parents trusted the word of the officers to follow the law. These children were present. There was a group there also called the Wall of Moms. We even had a woman with a baby. She had a baby carrier on her chest. She was there. Why would she bring a baby? Because that was the area designated by the police force to protest and exercise your First Amendment right peaceably. Understand what I'm saying. Instead of trying to victimize the victims, I'm speaking to the humanity of the issue. That's why I'm heavily invested. We're actively pursuing a case in regards to the children because they received no justice from the Sheriff's Department. Sheriff's Department never made a public statement in regards to the children being pepper sprayed. The Sheriff's Department never openly spoke anything about it. The city never spoke about it. No one spoke about it. Everyone acknowledged that it happened, but everyone took a deep breath wondering, what's going to happen now? I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this once, and I'm going to leave it there. There were multiple protesters that said, I fear retaliation for speaking out against RPD, the Parks Department, or the Sheriff's Department. Nowhere in America should a citizen say that about the police force. Nowhere. For any reason. When you're talking about a public servant, should a citizen say that they fear reprisal by them exercising their First Amendment right? Nobody should fear death, being followed, being unjustly arrested, being harassed by the police. These are fears that citizens have. So when people say, well, no one said anything, no one filed a report, no one came forward, they know why. Because people are afraid. I came forward. I'm speaking because I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to stand for righteousness. I'm not afraid to stand for what's right. I'm not afraid to stand for justice. There is no way in the world that anyone could ever tell me that a child deserves to be pepper sprayed. Well, what about malicious intent, Kay? They never offered any medical attention once they realized they pepper sprayed children. They never offered a drop of water for the children's eyes. So, yes, that seems very malicious to me. But that just shows you the environment that we live in. You stand up for your First Amendment rights. You stand against police brutality, excessive force, and racism. And you're met with force. You're met with brutality. And you're met with inhumanity. When you're talking about the weakest of society, children and elderly, yes, I do make it very personal. These were children. So, yes, I am actively seeking a case against the Sheriff's Department and the city. Well, everyone involved, the Parks Department, city, the Sheriff's Department. The same way they feel like they can grab any of us indiscriminately and say, well, the judge is going to make an example out of you, and you're going to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. We're going to push this as hard as need be to get justice. To get justice. These children didn't receive any justice the day that this happened. These children were terrorized. Doesn't matter whether they knew they were children or not. Once they fully acknowledged that they had pepper sprayed children, they did nothing to help any of them. Nothing. They did not call an ambulance. They did not administer first aid. They did nothing. There wasn't a single time last year during any of the protests that the officers administered first aid to anyone once they were pepper sprayed. But their job is to uphold the law. Their job is also to follow the law. If what I read, the language reads for the RPD that anyone that administers pepper spray is supposed to gain medical attention for that person that they pepper sprayed, or they themselves are supposed to give you medical attention because you could have asthma and you could die right in front of their face. They don't know the adverse effects of pepper spray. And unless I stand corrected, I believe most officers have to be pepper sprayed at least once so that they understand what it feels like, so that they know what it feels like. I've even seen documented videos where they were tased so that they can understand and have some sense of a level of compassion to understand what it feels like to be tased, to understand what it feels like to be pepper sprayed. So for a grown man to knowingly and willfully pepper spray children, not acknowledge the need for assistance while they're screaming. These children were screaming in pain and not help them at all. You get no pass from me. You get no sympathy from me. You get no love from me. You get no understanding from me. You get the reciprocation of the same evil energy that you gave. You get in return my same focused tunnel vision to see justice on behalf of these children. They were brutalized. People were brutalized. So yes, I'm fully invested. Fully invested. I demand justice out of this city. I'm not asking for justice. I demand justice. I demand it. I require it. I'm not asking that Rockford treat black men with justice. I demand justice. There is no ask in me. There is zero ask for justice. I demand it. Whatever we have to do, whatever we have to file, whoever we have to call, whatever has to be done to gain the justice that is needed. We are not asking for justice. We are demanding justice in this town. We're not looking for politics as usual out of Rockford, from the highest to the lowest position. We're not looking for business as usual. We're not looking for business as usual when it comes to the police force. We're not looking at business as usual when it comes to the politicians. We're not looking at business as usual when it comes to the mayor and his constituents. We're looking for better. Because to have no major push in the black community is to say, your community must be fine. You must be okay. You must not be in need of anything. There are many streets in the black community that have potholes running up and down the streets. There are many areas in the black community where the blight is unreal because there was never any money injected into that community to make it vibrant. Because whether the community is observing or not, city just received $300,000 to advertise, to bring people to Rockford. I'm going to say that again. Rockford, Illinois is advertising $300,000 to draw people to Rockford. Now to the black community that's clapping and cheering, saying, wow, they're doing a great job. You're already here. Think about what I'm saying. Pay attention. If Rockford is advertising to draw $300,000 to draw more people to add to the census of Rockford, but the black community is already here being incarcerated, follow the logic. That $300,000 is not to ask for more black people to come to Rockford. is to regentrify certain areas. Well, what makes you say that, Kay? The more you hear politicians talk about urban blight, is where they strategically put money and capital into those areas, specifically to build them up. But it's not to benefit those that are immediately impacted in that area. It's to draw other people. Listen to what I'm saying here. To draw other people to that area. And those that are disenfranchised have no choice but to move because the property value has been offset so severely they can't afford to stay. Understand what's happening in Rockford. They know that to be fully invested in a more vibrant downtown, they're going to have to gentrify the area, the immediate area around it. Rockford is not looking to inject capital in the black community in Rockford. It's looking to incarcerate the black community, but gentrify certain specific areas to draw people through an advertising campaign to move into Rockford. Follow the money. There is no major capital being spent in the African American community whatsoever. There's a major push for infrastructure down near Perryville, down near the furthest extent of East State, which is impacting the immediate suburbanite area, which commutes to Rockford for a lot of the jobs downtown. They don't live in Rockford per se. They don't live in downtown Rockford. They live in the suburban areas of Rockford. Rockford's already divided by economics based on real estate. Rockford's definitely socially divided. The education system is not comparable between black schools and white schools. And it all circles back around to the incarceration, the incarceration infrastructure of Rockford. That's it can't be described in any other terms. It's an incarceration infrastructure. Keep the black schools poorly funded. Keep the black kids undereducated. Keep the black community blighted and decimated, so that when you do inject capital, you inject it into areas where the property can be taken over, or whole swatches can be taken over and manipulated, so that when you do draw people in, what used to be a $50,000 house now is a $100,000 house. But yet you're going to tell the community, well, anybody can move in there. Why am I talking like this? Because it happens all over America. Rockford, wake up. It's happening now in your city. I guarantee if you look deep enough, you're going to see at least a 20-year plan, and you're not in it. You're not in the plan. Gentrification is in the plan. You are the collateral damage that they want to shuffle through the Justice Center. Why? Because they double down on that. The city of Rockford does not plan on moving the Justice Center from where it is. Their excuse is, well, we built it there. You built it with every opportunity to build it somewhere else except downtown Rockford. So now you have to double down and do everything in your power to decimate the black community to make sure that they funnel through the Justice Center. Everyone under the sound of my voice, if you live in Rockford and you are black, please start going to the council meetings so that you can see for yourself and hear in the transparency what they're saying. You are not economically included in the future of the city. There's no longevity in any major funding stream to revitalize your area of the city, to add significant infrastructure, economic infrastructure to your area of the city. There is no. The easiest way I could say it, and I'll pass the mic back to Leslie, there is no black agenda for the black community in Rockford. I said this on live. The black community, to have a black future, a black thriving future, needs a black agenda. Because right now, you're not at the table. You're not sitting at the table. You're catching crumbs that are falling off the table as they slice the economic pie for Rockford. You are getting crumbs, absolute crumbs off the table. You don't have a major viable seat at the table, because if you did, the schools would be different. The schools will be vibrant in the black community. Listen to what I'm telling you. You don't have a seat. This is not my opinion.
I go to council meetings. I'm heavily involved in the city. There is no major income being drawn for the black community. Why? Because once you revitalize that area, and that area takes the money and then is energized and focused and established and has a black identity and a black agenda to build a vibrant infrastructure, then you have a lowering of crime. Today, the city did a live, and I heard a comment about the rampant violence that is in Rockford, and it made me pause. And I was thinking, so this is what we're doing now. We're going to victimize the victim for the lack of any money spent in that community, but then focus on the effect, but not the cause. The crime is not the cause of the blight in Rockford for the black community. The crime is not the cause of the poor education system. The crime is the effect of a lack of investment by Rockford into its black population. So for any politician in this city to focus specifically on the crime, as if it's the cause of anything in this city, is laughable, because the crime is not the cause. That is the effect of a lack of an effective plan in the black community. So the effect is the crime. Crime is desperation. When someone allows themselves and gives themselves into a criminal mindset, it's an act of desperation. It's an act of desperation. Don't think for a second that people don't understand the consequences of selling drugs. They understand the consequences, but through desperation and hopelessness, they are willing to take chances with their very lives because they are that desperate. So make no mistake about it. The crime in Rockford is not the cause of any of the major ills that the black community is dealing with. It is the effect of it. I guarantee you, if Rockford invested $10 million in the black community within a 2 to 5 year period, you would see a drastic decrease in crime. Black people are not predisposed genetically to crime. That's not how this works. Well, they're black, so what more do you expect? Black people are not predisposed to committing crime. It is not a genetic trait, like eye color or skin color. Crime is an act of desperation. So I urge those, when people say, what can I do? Lobby your city with a black agenda, hold them accountable. Lobby your city to acquire funding to directly impact the black community so that the crime rate drops. That's what you do. You lobby the city to draw federal dollars with an initiative, a collective initiative, with the deliberate point of building up the social structure and the education structure of the black community, building up that's shoring that up and solidifying that. You will see within a matter of a few short years a drastic decrease in crime. So anyone under the sound of my voice that's still wondering, well, what can I do? Us protesting is protesting to draw awareness to the ills of the city. But once you're involved and invested on a political level to hold them accountable, that's where the change is. This is what exposes the topics to the light of day. It draws out discussions and conversations. But proactiveness in the council meetings, proactive in holding your aldermen accountable, your council members accountable, holding the mayor accountable, holding the chief of police accountable, holding all the different entities accountable as social servants to address the ills of a city. Rockford on its course as it stands has no hope on growing if it's going to pick and choose certain areas and certain demographics to make vibrant, but not focus on a holistic approach to making the entire city better. You can't just focus on Perryville or affluent white areas and hope that